Okay, so here we are back with this game. I have gone back to this script that looks a bit like this. I haven't got any of the, if you watch my last video, right at the end, I do show how to make it so you can only go in one direction at a time. You can't go up, left, up, right, and all that sort of stuff. But I have removed that because I quite want that in my game. So back here with this, I might slightly increase my player speed by going to here and making it 7.5. Now, I've got a sprite of open game art. Just dragged it in, so I'm going to drag that on top of there. And actually, that's not the best way to do it. What am I talking about? That won't do it right. I need to go here. So I'm going to drag it onto the sprite renderer. And now, of course, I have this sprite. So it just looks a little bit better. But of course, the square is fine. We're only learning. But I just wanted something better. I might actually change the background as well. Maybe I'll do a good background in another time. But I'm just going to say it's quite a dark background. So there we go. Not quite pitch black, but close enough. Some ambient light is there or something, whatever. Anyway, so in this video, I want to make something shoot. So I'm going to teach you what a prefab is, and let's begin with that. So first of all, we're going to make a bullet. Now I'm going to make a very top high quality art bullet, which is going to be a capsule. There we go. I'm going to zoom in. Now it's relative to the ship, so let's do that. Let's give it a color. Let's do purple. Purple's the coolest color. And then actually, I'll try and make it a little bit cooler than that. And what I'll do is I'll duplicate it. A little tip, put that on top. And then make this one green. Actually, no, make this one purple. I got it around the wrong way. Yes, no, this one, I want purple on the outside or inside? No, I want purple on the outside and inside and green on the outside. So then I'm going to make this green. Now, you can't see it because this is too big. But then I'm just going to scale this in. 0.9. It's a very lazy way to do something that's vaguely okay. Now you will find that you need to maybe tweak it a bit. Yeah, there we go. So 0.7. So I know it's not a fantastic bullet, but it looks slightly better than just whatever. And I'm going to call this bullet. I'm going to call this inside color. But it's still just this bullet here, right? And right now this is a game object. In fact, I might scale it up slightly, a little bit, just because I can. I'm just going to move it there just to have a look at it. Have a look at it in game. It'll look terrible, no doubt, but you know, it doesn't even show it's showing the way around because of order in layer. So I need to bring that up to something like that. Yep, there we go. So order in layer. So the lower numbers are obviously at the back and the high numbers are on the top. You can do negative numbers as well. Right, there we go. So anyway, by the way, if you didn't know what that was, it's in the additional settings for the sprite renderer. So yeah, so that's our bullet. So we're going to drag it in here now, and this is creating a prefab. And what a prefab is, I can delete it now. A prefab is like a design, like you could think of it as a class, but imagine a class but it's got all the things in it. It's now a file version of that sprite. Okay, so when we edit it now, I'm going to edit it down here. All right, so I'm going to add a new script to it, which I'm going to call movement. Now, the reason I'm going to do this is you often want things to move when you create them. And so it's really handy if there's a script that you have got. So I'm going to call it, I could call it, I'll call it movement script. Right? Or movement controller. Actually, that goes more with all other things. Right? So that's now got a script on it called movement controller. Although I can't see it. There we go. It's going to be there in a minute. Boom. And we're going to edit that. So I'm going to do, leave the update, and then I'm going to do a vector. I'm going to do a serializable field because I want to be able to edit this in the editor, even though we probably would never do that with the bullet, but you can add this to other things. That's the point. We're trying to make reusable code, okay, that we can use on loads of objects. So I'm going to make a serializable field, private, a vector3 called movement direction, right? So that's going to be direction and speed, because obviously you can change the vector in there to whatever number you want. And in the update, we're just going to do transform dot position plus equals movement direction. Why do I type so badly? Plus equals, go on, put it in again. Movement direction times time dot delta time. Right. Okay. Oh, bang. Right. So that's it. That is it. Okay, this script will just look at that and move things, and let's just show it in action. So we'll put the bullet in the game because there's no way to instantiate one at the moment. Don't make the ship do it. And if we go here and then we'll give this version, we'll do it nothing and then we'll change it in game because you can do that. So I'll just start to increase this, and off it goes. And the more I put there and there, and the movement, brilliant. There we go. Right. We could also do a rotation to have lots of things in there. Might do. I could do. I mean, I could do that later. And if I was doing it, maybe I would. I might even also do like a starting rotation. So in case, for example, we want to shoot this object right, we might do that. But I don't want to get too complicated in this video. But just understand, if I was doing this properly, I'd probably make things like rotation on there and the starting angle, so that I could have an object start any angle, going any speed, doing any rotation. But for now, I won't do that because there's no need. And you could add that yourself. I have a little challenge for you. But anyway, so we've got our bullet and it's got the script on it. Okay, so I'm not going to have any movement in it. Our bullet's going to naturally not move. So now we need to get the ship to shoot the bullet. So we go to the player controller, and first thing it needs to know is, what the hell are we shooting? Okay, so we put a serialized field in there, and it's going to be a game object. It should be private, this really. These are, by the way, they are private by default, but I do like to be explicit and state the exact thing. So a private game object, call it bullet. Or I'll call it bullet 1 because there's a good, bullet 0, got to be the computer geek, because there's a good chance that we'll have different weapons, and so therefore I'll be dragging lots in the game. There are many ways to do this. We could do a list or a few other things, or an inventory system, but let's keep it simple. So I'm going to call it bullet 0. Now when I go back here, right, I'm going to drag in this. Now be careful not to drag in, although of course we're not on the square, which we should really call player. Not to drag in an instance of the object here. No. We don't want that. We need to drag in the prefab of the object, okay? Because we shouldn't have any instances of bullets because we ain't shot any yet. So obviously we can drag them in through some testing and mess around with it. Just make sure your position's at 0. Just make sure that's at 0. Doesn't actually matter because we're going to instantiate it, but still I like it to be 0. So we're going to leave it at 0. So that's our bullet. It's got movement of none on it. So how do we get the spaceship to shoot it? Well, it's actually quite easy. Oh, I'll just minimize that for no reason. So now just to be clear, this is all to do with movement. So I'm going to teach you something here. Highlight all this, right click, and do refactoring. Refactoring is the idea of sort of simplifying code or taking it out. Well, basically doing what I'm doing now. Right, I'm not explaining it very well, but you'll see. So I'm going to extract it as a method, and then I'm going to call the method movement. Okay, so now in the update, we're doing movement. And then I can sort of minimize that and not worry about it. Okay, I'm just going to steal a bit of code, stick it there. Now I will call this shooting, but of course I will write it in update. When I'm finished, I'll do exactly what I just did. So now I want on key. Now I'm actually not going to do I'll do on key down actually, and then I will explain to you the way to improve it. So now so we're pressing the key, right? So we press the key. Now we need to instantiate the object. Okay. So here's what we have to do. Now we can just do instantiate like this. Right, but there's a problem, which we'll see. Not a problem, but just it doesn't do what we want it to do. Basically, it's simple as that. When I play it, okay, it'll just make bullets. But the problem is, okay, makes bullets, but they're all at 0, 0, 0. Okay, because we're not telling it where it is, and yeah, we can't access the bullets. We can't change the bullet's movement speed, which we really want to do. Otherwise, it won't move. So now, I know a lot of you, if I taught this in class or if I spoke to you, you might have said, why isn't the bullet moving itself? Well, it's very likely the player will get updates that will mean that maybe like 2 bullets shoot fast in the middle, 2 shoot slow on the outside. Various other things could happen, right? So I'm going to show this properly, like I was doing this properly, like a proper code. So anyway, so I want to instantiate the bullet. So I need to do game object B. I'm just going to do B for bullet equals, although it should be a capital G. So now I can access the bullet with B, right? Although you can actually, if you go here, you will see there are many versions of instantiate where you can do the position and other things like this. Okay, so you can do position, quaternion. Quaternion is the rotation. They don't use Euler because you can look it up, something called gimbal lock. It's a confusing thing, quaternions, really, for a simple operation like this. Really, you don't need to worry about it. But yeah. So I need to do the object, the position, and the rotation. Actually, is there one with just position? No. So I need to do the position. Well, obviously the position you would think would be which would be transform, sorry, which is our object's position. Right, and that does work, but it has a slight problem. I don't know why that's not working. Transform dot cannot convert. What have I done here? I'm being dumb. Let's just type it again. Transform dot position. I don't know what's doing there. Maybe I didn't do the comma. Yeah, I don't know. And then we want quaternion dot identify. So if you don't want any identity, sorry, if you don't want any rotation, that's weird. You do that. If you want to do one, you can do dot Euler angles, and then you write in the x, y, and z as a vector 3. But we don't need that because we don't. Identity is like a blank, like it's going to be normal. It's going to be the rotated however it was. Okay, so now that will work in some way, but there is a slight thing I need to improve. So we'll go back. I'm just going to close these things. Go back to Unity, which is some reason taking for ages ever. There we go. Let's not pause it. So now we can move around and press space, but the bullet's coming out in the middle of the ship. Now I can adjust it myself in code with an offset, or what I could do is go to the player, create an empty object. Normally I'll put a little icon on it like this. There we go. Hurrah. Put it to where I want it to shoot from. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put it a bit ahead because the bullet is quite big, right? No, maybe there, whatever. And then I'm going to call that shoot point. Now you could have more than one shoot point, right? Various others. So obviously we need access to that position. So we need to do a transform. You don't need that. You could just do the game object, right? And then do, but as we only want the transform, we'll call it shoot point, right? And then we will put shoot point dot position. Okay, so we've got a private transform shoot point, and we'll do shoot points dot position. And shoot point dot position, we need to drag that in the script. So we go back to the script, you'll see it's here. So we drag the shoot point in. Now, when I said transform before, not game object, because I said transform, it's only going to get access to that information of this shoot point. Now, as you can see here, shoot point doesn't have anything but a transform, so I could have done game object, but then I would have had to have done shoot point dot transform dot position, as opposed to just shoot point dot position, because I'm only getting the transform. But I just wanted to explain that you can get access to just say the sprite renderer of this. You don't have to give it the whole object and then do object dot sprite renderer. I don't know if there's a lot of optimization in that, but I assume there's some. Okay, but there you go. So that's why I did that. And now, of course, it will move from the top. Appear from the top, but it's still not moving, right? So now what we want to do is be able to make it move. So we've got access to B, and what we need to do, if you remember on our bullet's got a script on it. I'm doing a terrible job today. My bullet's got a script on it called movement controller. So we need to access the movement controller of the bullet we just made. And we can't do that by dragging and dropping because the bullets don't exist yet. So we've got to get access to that in code. And this can be fiddly in Unity. I'm not going to lie to you. It's kind of like you just have to maybe look it up every time and do it. So we need to access the B's, because that's the version, that's the actual bullet that's made, movement controller. And we do that by doing this. We write movement controller, because we want one. I'm going to call it MC, equals, okay, it's called it movement controller, so we'll just leave it as that. No, I won't, because it's really long, the bit I'm going to code. Equals B dot gets component movement controller. There you go, like that. So what it's saying is, it's saying make a new movement controller MC. It's grey, by the way, because I'm not using it. That's why it's saying, why have you got this thing that you're not using? But I'm going to use it in a second, right? And I'm going to have to change something in here because this is private and I can't set it. So I'll need to be able to set it, but I want to do that on purpose because I'm going to show you something useful. So anyway, movement controller, yeah, there we go. So, all right, that is getting the component movement controller, and now I can edit the movement controller here. Now, I can't edit the actual movement direction because it's a private variable, but what I can do is go to this quick action refactoring again, and I can do use a property. How useful is that? I'm going to call it movement direction 1, okay, which I don't like, so I'm going to change this one to, I'm going to rename it to, I'll rename that to the lowercase one, and then I'm going to rename this to just uppercase 1. Right, so my actual property. And if you don't know what a property is, you'll have to watch my Unity videos. But imagine it's like a variable link, but code will get run when it gets changed. So the code for the property here will change this, but this is public and this is private. Now here, I'm not doing anything interesting, but I could do some code in here that says, hey, don't allow them to set this to a stupidly high number or something like that. But that's another video. If you really don't understand that, you could just make that public, right? And then it would work fine. Okay. But anyway, so we're going to go to the player controller here, and now I can access that, or I could make a set and get method, right? Anyway, so movement direction equals vector3.forward. Thank you very much. Oh no, it'd be up. Sorry, not forward. Stupid guess there. Okay, so if you think about them, making the bullet. Now, this is going to make a vector of 1. Okay, 0, 1, 0. So if we go back to Unity, that's going to move it up 1 unit a second, which is not a lot, because a unit is, let's put a bullet in. Don't know why that's gone over there. Thank you. I made that massive for no reason. A unit is that. So it's going to go 1 a second. Really? So I really want some sort of shoot speed. So I'm going to delete that. So times bullet speed. And our bullet speed will, and look, you can even do this quick refactor. It will create a, I don't want a bullet speed. I'm going to do a good one actually. Let's do a serializable field and we'll call it bullet speed. I thought it was going to do something good there and give me the options for a float, but it's trying to make me do a vector, which makes sense because I'm multiplying by a vector. But you can multiply a float by a vector. I'm going to do a bullet speed of 15 by default, but obviously we can change this in the editor. Okay, so this is, and obviously I could change this if I picked up power-ups. Or if I want to do 2 bullets, I'll say 4 bullets, 2 in the middle fast and 2 on the edge slow, I could do bullet speed and then divide it by 2 for the ones on the edges or something like that, okay? I'm obviously going to move this out, refactor this in a second. I'm going to save that. So I'm making a bullet, getting the controller, setting the bullet speed. Yeah, there we go. And now that should do exactly what I just said. I haven't had sound effects, but you're getting them for free. There you go. Wow. And if I did have sound effects, I've got system audio off, so you wouldn't even be able to hear them in case I get a noise. Right, there you go. So that's basically, I think that's everything I wanted to cover in this lesson. I'm just going to check my list if there's anything else, but I'm pretty sure that's it. And then obviously I will cover other stuff in the next lesson. Yeah, that's it. That's all I want to cover. So yeah, there you go. And you can look at the scripts by going back to, I think I'll just quickly load them up. There's the script. Of course, I will do this. By the way, right click and refactor this out as a method called shooting. So now I've got movement, then shooting. Okay. And then I can minimize that. And there we go. So that's the end of that video.